Hi guys, today I'm remaking a video and I think it was probably from 2018 or something. It was a few years ago where I talked about what my books are about. And I was looking at that the other day. And of course, I've been talking about how I want to remake a bunch of older videos to update them. And I looked at that one and I thought, wow, this is before like most of my books. So this is very outdated. I might have to redo it. So I'm going to include the link below because in it I talk a lot more about my first four books, I think. And that's, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that today. I'll just say very quickly my first two books, Fire and A Spark Before the Fire, about the music industry in the 90s and about people getting involved in the industry when they're very young and didn't really know much. And I'll tell you more about it in the other video. And then the second or third and fourth book were about vampires. Again, I won't get into that a lot right here. You can learn more about that in the other video if you're into vampires. And of course, you can go to my website, mimaonfire.com, anytime. I have all my books there. I have my Hernandez series, which I'm going to talk about next. So this is the majority of my books. I have like 12 books in the Hernandez series. Mind you, you can read any one of them anytime and not be lost because they're pretty much standalone, but I do make references to things that happened in the past that you wouldn't read it and be like, oh God, I don't know what the hell's going on, but you might want to go back and read another book just to kind of get more insight. But anyways, the Hernandez series, and again, I'll probably have a link here down below about the series, but essentially that's what most of my books are about because the Hernandez series, it's basically about I guess you could say, former narco from Mexico comes to Canada, tries to live legit, somewhat not. And he still has those killer instincts, literally. So again, I'm not going to get a whole lot into that because I have a whole series of videos about the Hernandez series and one talking specifically about what it's about. So I think I'd rather just, without going into all that again and repeating myself, have it just include videos. But I will say, generally speaking, all my books have a very dark theme. There's a lot of dark comedy too. I've noticed that kind of coming out and as I go along. And they tend to move fast. They're not like, how some books you read, and not that there's anything wrong with this, you get kind of buried in the descriptions and stuff. You're not going to find that in my books. I do get into descriptions very mildly because I want you to use your imagination when you're reading. What do you think a beautiful house looks like, for example, or what do you think a beautiful person looks like? It's not for me to get into the explicit detail because I'm telling you what I think. I kind of want you to jump in and be like, yeah, that's the kind of house I think is beautiful. But if I explain, you might be like, okay, wait, now I'm trying to picture this. I don't want that. I want an easy read that you can get through quickly. And I think that's important. I think a lot of people now don't like to read, and a lot of people have to read for work or school or whatever. So they want something that's easy to read. They don't want something that's going to make them think. And I know it sounds terrible. It might make them think, but not make them have to, okay, so they're describing this house and I'm trying to picture, what do they mean by this? Oh God, I have to look that up. I don't know what that means. It's stuff like that. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So essentially that's what my books are dark. They tend to run very differently. I have a lot of sort of rebellious kind of characters, sort of anti-hero type characters, not your standard kind of sweet girl next door, guy next door bullshit. You know what I mean? My characters are flawed, very flawed, but somewhat likable at the same time. I shouldn't say just somewhat likable, but likable in the sense you're like, yeah, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I kind of like to say that sometimes, but I can't. But this character does, and I like that. So it's really hard to explain exactly what my books are about. They're definitely dark, but you're not gonna have nightmares, I think, from them. There is killing in them, but I don't get into very graphic I can't even speak, graphic details. You won't be grossed out, I don't think. I guess this is kind of, I'm trying to answer a bunch of questions that I've had over the years regarding what my books are about. And are they gory? Are they this or that? I don't think so. And they're just kind of different. I mean, I color outside the lines. It's really hard to categorize my books because they're not really a mystery. And there's a bit of a thriller aspect, kind of vigilante hero aspect if you're into that. Um, and they move quickly once again. So, I mean, you're not going to be bored. And I think the worst thing is when you're reading a book and you can't get through it and you're like, oh my God. And then you just stop reading. And that's what happens to a lot of people. Like I say, too much description, too much whatever, too long of a book. Like if people are finding something hard to get through, life as it is has enough of those things. They don't want books like that. Anyways, guys, the best thing to do, check out my books on my website. Go to Amazon. You can read a sample of any of these books. You can see what I'm talking about. I mean, I feel like that's the best way. When I buy a book, I don't look at the reviews and all this bullshit. I look at what's in the book. Am I going to keep reading this or want to keep reading this? Because if not, am I going to spend $20? It's up to you guys. Please check them out. Please check them out. I don't say you have to buy them. Just check them out. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps.